Right, this is going to be my first how-to video, and I'm going to build the Carnaby's Garage N-Gauge model by P&D Marsh. I bought this kit as an alternative to just buying the Lyddle End Beetons Garage complete for 30 quid. I've made ratio, Kestrel, Metcalf models, but this is the most expensive kit I've ever bought, about £42. So let's see what you get. Right, very comprehensive instructions. So we'll see how they get on. The main body garage parts, something called a self-stick detail sheet, corrugated metal sheet which is very thin and looks very easy to damage or warp, a glazing sheet, could be much better like they do at Metcalf's, cardboard sheet which I'm not quite sure what that's for yet, and a bag of detailing castings. To tell the truth, a bit underwhelmed at the moment, as they seem to have crammed the parts onto the smallest area possible, and I'm very suspicious of this metal roof part. Well, let's see how we get on. In addition, there are some transfers from the sign sheet, which I assume you just soak in water and they slide on, and some strip wood, 2 bits, which again look a bit fiddly and easy to snap or break, so I'll have to be careful all the way around. The detailing sheet is not, they're not water slides, you have to cut them out yourself, which for a rectangular one, not so bad. But how I'm going to cut out these shell stickers that are meant to go on the petrol pumps and make it look reasonable, I don't know. And another gripe is, whoever's cut this sheet out, if you look at that bottom edge, they haven't done it properly. So this particular detail is useless, because somebody's cut when they cut the sheet out to put in the packet, they've cut across the bottom edge. Ah! Now to start, or so I thought. They tell you to use the diagram included with the instructions as your reference to identify these pieces. So you might as well do what I do, which is take a copy of it and then methodically try and identify all the parts to start with. They should have done this themselves. You know, it's just standard stuff. It's taken me about 30 minutes and much not enjoying it at all, having to go through and try and work out what part number is what part. They just give you numbers such as cut out A3A without telling you whether it's a sill, a trim or a door. And also, I've just noticed, there's no practice pieces, so you can try out painting before you actually start painting the model. I'll continue, but so far I wouldn't recommend this to anyone. 0 out of 5. I have now found out from reading the instructions what this piece of cardboard's for. You're meant to cut out your own floor. Why, surely if you're buying a laser cut card kit, do you have to cut out the floor using a Stanley knife? Weird. So 48mm by 30mm. I've cut 2 of my own out from pieces of art card I've had, but again I'm just baffled why a laser cut kit you can't be bothered to do the floor laser cut. You're leaving somebody to do it using a ruler and a Stanley knife. Odd. Right, I've cut out the main sides of the garage, and then the instructions say paint these items cream. Now obviously you want your garage to look like their picture, and the one thing it isn't is cream, so I'm ignoring that and I'm going to go for a dark green. So far I'm just giving it a light coat of an acrylic green, catch-can green, so I'm just giving it a very light watered down coat, and then I'll try and darken it later. But it definitely says there, paint the front A1, A2, A3 cream. Ooh, you obviously want to try and get yours to look like their picture. Right, I've finished painting the garage building parts, decided on a dark green for the outside, and painted the smaller items, the window frames, before removing from the sheet. I've largely ignored their painting guidelines, as they appear to be just wrong. One bit was telling you to paint the frames, the door, i.e. anything not the main building, dark red, which just seems like rubbish. So next it's assembly. I am now going to attempt to put the door into the wall. Now the way they tell you to do it is to first glue the door in, then put the frame on, then put the glazing on the back of the door, and then put the sill at the bottom. But I'm not going to do it that way. I'm going to glaze the door first, seems easier, then put the door step on, so I've got a reference to then put the trim on, and then put the door in. I may use a piece of card on the back of the door to hold the door in place, but you won't see it. It seems a much better way of doing it than the way they describe. See how we get on. And here we have it completed. I think I've done quite a good job. They do say that the white door frame overhangs the opening, but it doesn't. And what I've done on the back is, rather than try and glue the door in and end up with lots of glue everywhere, I've just stuck a bit of card over the back, but leaving a bit of room because I've got to put the floor in as well. So I think that looks okay. I've just reached the bit in the instructions where it says glue double plank door on back unpainted side of opening in A1, which is that. So that goes on the back of that. So okay, look at the picture. The doors are glued to the outside of the building. Not where, so a bit of artistic license, and so don't take their picture as being the way to build it. I have now put the four walls together and I'm ready to do the roof. And I'm going to treat the rest of this build from a kind of Zen or Buddhist point of view. Like life, you are sometimes given hard to follow instructions or seemingly wrong advice, and you have to make your own decisions. And if you have confidence and are patient and willing to accept your limitations, you will accomplish something you can be proud of, and something that is uniquely you. Now, the next bit involves putting the roof on the garage, and they have an amazing way of doing it, which says cut the material, this, into 5mm wide strips. That's minute. Then, using a hobby knife or straight edge, cut along the grooves of this material, and once you have a sufficient supply of these strips, I don't know, probably about 30, feather a thin layer of glue across the roof section and start at the left edge and press the strips and butt them up and blah blah. On and on. Well, first row, start the second row and make sure each... Anyway, and then after you've got all that, then you use a hobby knife to poke a hole. What I'm going to do is I'm going to cut out one piece, put it on there, cut out another piece, put it on there, and then I'll have a bit left which I shall put over the top and then put this joining strip down the middle. Then, because I'm going to do each roof section separately, I'll be able to put the chimney in that hole before I attach the roof section. Anyway, I'll show you what I mean as I go along. Right, put a new blade in the Stanley knife, so I've got a nice cut. So I've cut one piece to go on there, one piece to go on there, and I can cut out the chimney bit. Then I've got this capping piece to go along the top. So I'll glue that on there, then put the chimney in, put those on there, the capping piece, then I'll paint the roof and add the rust effects. Well, this afternoon's work while listening to football on the radio is I've painted the roof. I shall give it a coat of matte varnish, just so it's the bits of strip metal that any that are shining through you can't see, and I've just loosely put the walls of the machine shop on, which I shall paint and put the windows in. Right, I've put in the windows on this thing they call the machine shop, sellotaped on the back, and now I'm just going to assemble it into the pre-cut slots on this side. What I shall do is I shall do the two side pieces first, then put the roof on so I know the roof sits on, and then I shall put that window bit on. If I did the window bit first and it was at askew, I might not be able to get the top on, and then I shall put the bit of corrugated iron on the top. After a bit of trial and error, I decided that the best way was to put the roof onto the two outer walls first. Then I ran a quick file along that bottom edge to make sure it was flush. Right, now that's all glued on. I glued it from the inside, assembled it, then put the glue on the inside. That looks quite nice. Now next, I still haven't put this piece of roof on because I found out what these bits are for. They fit on down there, sort of like supporting strips on each corner there. And if I look at the photograph, they're painted white. So I've painted them white, wait for it to dry, cut them out, put them on. And if I think it looks a bit strange having these white lines, I can just paint them over dark green again. Right, there we are. That is the machine shop added, and it has these white bits. I don't know. I usually leave these things to the wife to decide the artistic merits of various bits and pieces. But yeah, that looks good. So now I shall actually clear up my desk before I start the next bit, as I'm getting a bit congested. I've made the station building very much like the machine shop on the other side, and I've just assembled the pieces without gluing to start with, just to make sure it will fit in, which it does nicely. So rather than do it their way, which is glue the sides in and then put the top on, because the top's rather a tight fit, it's easier to do it this way and then assemble it in that way. But I shall take it apart and glue it. Now there is a porch that goes above the door, and I'm now wondering whether it'd be easier to fit it now rather than try and fit it once I put the station building on the side, in which case then I'm holding the whole model while pressing it in, so I'm less likely to do any damage if I fit the porch now before I've put the station, or whatever they call it, the office building, onto the main garage. In fact, I will do that. Right, these are the components for the canopy roof, and it's probably just as well I thought about putting it on first, because it enables me to cut this small piece of corrugated sheet to go on the roof and apply that now rather than later onto the assembled model. I haven't got much corrugated sheet left, so hopefully I've got enough for the coal bin, which is the final assembly. I've put the canopy on, and it was rather fiddly. I haven't actually really need to glue it. It push fits very tightly. So if you were having to attach this canopy after you'd assembled the main building, you would find it extremely difficult, and you would have to be extremely careful. So that looks alright. For some reason it's seems to be slightly tilting up, maybe not quite right angle, but never mind. I'll just give it a touch up with paint, and then I will assemble the building and attach it. Now, to finish off the office building, what I'm going to do is attach these white strips, the same as I did on there, from there down the edging there, whichever sides are. Yep. And then again, before I attach this building to that building, I'm going to put the little signboard, and I shall use their sign, which then attaches to these three items, goes on there, then blah blah. You've also got this piece, here we go, which goes round the roof, but notice this edge is smaller than the other three, so this edge goes at the back. I've put this plinth on round, and now I just need to paint the edge of it, which is black. And I've also made, whoops, here we go, the sign, Carnaby Motor Engineers, which is using the press out sticky bits, which all seems to go together quite well. And I shall paint the back and the supports brown, the colour change, and do the edge white, then glue it on, comme ça. And I'm just about finished, bar doing the coal shed, which is exactly the same procedure as all the other little attachments, attached buildings. Just doing the coal bin and looking through the corrugated sheet I got left, and I've got enough to do the bin lid by overlapping a piece, and all I am left with out of that long strip, unless I've lost a piece somewhere, is that. So you need to be very careful about conserving your corrugated roof. Yes, it is recommended that you put this little coal shed on first before you put on the garage building, because there's quite a lot of pressing you have to do, and if you had this already attached, the chances of you making sticking your thumb through something are quite large. Now I've finished the model, and it actually looks quite nice, so I'll give it 3 out of 5, although it is expensive for what it is, but it's turned out a million times better than I thought it would when I first opened the bag. It requires a lot of patience and a lot of skill, and in hindsight I'd have probably made it with the doors open. So all I've got left now is the accessories. Now these are the accessories. I made the shell sign, but it looks rather naff, so I'm not going to bother using that on the railway. These are the bits that I am going to use. 3 figures, petrol pump, waste bin, motorbike, pile of barrels, and some engine parts on a pallet. And you're also given some castings, which I'm not going to use. Something that actually looks like steps, but I think it's meant to be a pile of boxes, 3 loose barrels, 2 more waste bins, big on waste, a lamp stand which doesn't quite fit, two old style petrol pumps, and a barrel which is so big I think they've put a double O barrel in by mistake. So I'm just going to use these ones on my garage scene.